I'm going to start from kind of the beginning. VR Chat is always, my first point of call. And bear in mind, everything that gets discussed here tonight, everyone has their own processes. So what I'll be showing tonight is obviously my favorite tools. As you saw in Dale's tutorial last week, he's got very specific tools. I have got all the ones that are available on GitHub, and I'll post them in the workshop links after this, including everything from literally this point on. So I'm going to kind of walk you through basically exactly how I would build a world really quickly. As you saw, I started that sculpt and just get it all the way through within an hour and actually have a world published in VR Chat. And I think viewing it this way around, also it takes that kind of daunting side away from it a fair bit. So the first thing you want to do is come into VR Chat, and the color system is the first thing you need to understand. I think a lot of you know about that already, but you can't really do anything if you're still white. You need to first progress to blue, and then you progress to green. If you find yourself, if you've been in VR Chat for a while and your color isn't changing, you must make sure your accounts are merged. Sometimes what happens if you choose to use VR Chat with your Steam account or your Oculus account, it's actually not using your VR Chat account, so you're not getting any of the trust points. You need these trust points for being able to upload worlds and upload avatars. And it's kind of only the first two colors. Once you go blue, you can upload avatars and you can upload worlds, but only to invite people to. So your friends can come check them out, you can hang out at them, but they're not really open. Once you hit green, then you can submit your worlds publicly. Those then first go to something called Community Labs, which is like the purgatory of VR Chat. And you've basically got, I'd say, 3 days in that kind of eyeball space that if enough people visit, hang out, it's like a secret source of how it actually works. But if you're lucky enough, it gets published actually publicly, and that becomes a public world that then you can search for. If it stays in labs, you can also send links to people. There's it's in essence still a public world, but it's very hard to find, and you also can't actually search for worlds that aren't public. So if they're just sitting in labs, and more importantly is you have to actually turn on a checkbox inside of VR Chat to allow the viewing of public worlds. So it's a problem because if you're trying to do something or have a show and new people are coming into the space and they haven't clicked that allow me to view the lab's worlds, then it can be a problem and they can't access it. So there's a little bit to think about there. So just bear in mind, watch your colors, and if you don't get past white within 2-3 sessions, good sessions in VR Chat, just check you've got your accounts merged. So once you're in VR Chat, the first thing you do, go to downloads, and you'll see here it's got Steam downloads. You've probably already got to this point, all of you now, and download Unity, for those who haven't got it yet, basically will take you to the setting up the SDK page. I'll post the link to this, but the important thing here is basically what is the current supported Unity version. Click on that and they'll say here, okay, the official version is Unity 2019.4.3 F1. So you must make sure that you use this version of Unity. It doesn't actually change that much. It's just because of the change from 2018 to 2019, I imagine they're having to shift a few things around on the builds. But once it's stable, they don't actually change. I mean, it's taken forever since the beginning to change to the first version. So you just kind of need to get there. If you've got an older project still in 2019, it will still work. It will just tell you in the console that you don't have the right version. But if you are a world builder and you've done 2018 worlds, you do have to port it quite specifically. So you have to check out the port guide. For those new to Unity, download Unity Hub. Basically what that is it's a container that you can install a bunch of different versions of Unity. So you can see I've got the old, this is the classic VR Chat 2018.4.2, and this is the new one I just downloaded now. So basically from this page with the links, you can just either download it straight from here, but I suggest download Unity Hub first. Then inside of Unity Hub, you just come here, you say add, and you can choose, or you just click on this link. And so now you've got Unity, right? So the first thing you want to do with Unity is just start a nice fresh project. Make sure you're using that version 2019.4. Click it, and let's call this, we made a tree, right? Tree world. Tree world, and let's hit create. So we're probably going to see a few loading bars and things like that, so I can also chat over them. And just things like when you're thinking about VR Chat, a lot of the world builders, it really is a multiplayer Unity world. So quite often, every single thing you're doing in VR Chat, it's not really VR Chat specific. We'll get to those VR Chat specific parts, but it's basically Unity. And if you want to learn Unity, it's such an amazing learning curve, creating things for VR Chat. But it's not like something like Roblox or things like that where you have to, where it's a game. You literally, everything in VR Chat is built from Unity itself. So while you are learning VR Chat, you basically learning Unity. And shaders, how you build worlds, how you bake things, this isn't VR Chat specific. This is global in any Unity project. So all the skills you learn here translate directly across to any other Unity project. So that being said, we've got Unity, and we've got VR Chat. So how do we get things into VR Chat from Unity? So there isn't like a world builder inside of VR Chat. So that's what you use things called the SDKs, which is the software development kits. So same place where we downloaded where we went into VR Chat and we went to the download section here. Just underneath here, you'll see these 3 other downloads. Now, SDK 2, I wouldn't even consider going back there now. It was kind of a really great system there. The way you programmed in here was very much a trigger system, which was really handy, especially for creators. It's very much along the lines of select an object and then you tell it things like, if I pick up this object, then tell this thing to tell that thing to do this. And it kind of works on drop-down systems. So once you understood it, it was a really nice creative way. Then VR Chat created what's called Udon, which is basically their own programming language. And that makes VR Chat way more powerful. It really opens the floodgates to actually being able to program using whitelisted things, using what's called their Udon system. So you'll see it's a whole bunch of noodles. That's what's called Udon. Like when you've built a real thing using that route, it can look absolutely crazy. Now, the one downside to the Udon side is it suddenly, I think a lot of the non-technical people got a bit put off because it suddenly felt a lot harder to do basic things because you needed to have a bit of a basic like coding mindset in a way. But because it's a programming language, what's happened is a lot of people like this person called Merlin, we'll use one of those assets. They've started creating tools and systems that let you kind of bring anything into these platforms. So one such example is Cyan Triggers. So he really liked creating trigger-based systems, and with the new Udon programming language, he recreated the SDK2 language using Udon, the VR Chat programming language. So that really suddenly enables you to create anything you want and not have to program in Udon. You can still use the traditional triggering system. So there's two downloads here, both of them for Udon. One is avatars and one is worlds. And these are very specific. If you're going to be building avatars, separate project, separate SDK. Ruth's going to be doing a workshop, I think, next week around like introduction to avatar creation. So we won't be touching this tonight, but just know that you can't work on these SDKs in the same project. So we're using the worlds one, so I'm going to download the SDK3 worlds. What that basically does is downloads what's called a Unity package, and it's basically a container, like a zip file that Unity really understands. So I've got Unity. Did we launch Unity? Yeah. So Unity is here. It's open. It's completely blank. So all I need to do is click that asset, and that's going to automate it. It will, if you've got multiple Unity windows open, the way I did it is just the shortcut. But whatever Unity windows in the foreground, in the background, if that makes sense, will import the package. So it's basically all automatic. I hit import, and this is now bringing all VR Chat's brain and communication system into Unity. So now I'll have a whole bunch of things I didn't have before. You can see right now I just have this little folder called scenes in what's my asset window. This is where I just store and collect all my stuff. And you'll see it's importing the SDK, which now contains all of VR Chat's systems that will require our Unity file that we upload to now speak to VR Chat, as well as the little program that actually will upload the world for us. So we'll let that import quickly, and then same thing as well. That's all you need to do from the VR Chat side. There are a bunch of what's called, again, prefabs and Unity packages that have been built by various community members. And one of them, this Merlin person created a C# decompiler. So you can actually program and then program in C#, and that will actually get decompiled, and Udon can then understand that. So Merlin's created this Udon Sharp, which is one of those kind of must-have packages. Let me just VRC prefabs. So the community of VR Chat is absolutely astoundingly big, friendly, amazing. Really the whole community, I think a lot of it, because it's got this, everyone's doing it for free basically. It's because there's no real monetization yet. It really has, everyone that's in it is really in it for this creative output in a sense, which is fantastic, and it's led to very big communities. The VRC prefabs community being the biggest, and they over the years, from the beginning, have started this free database here where it contains everything you can possibly imagine to get started with making VR Chat stuff for free, right? And this must-haves column here, it's, like Cyan Trigger, which I just mentioned, for people that aren't programmers. This is a really great one to just chuck and start if you want to start programming worlds. So you could spend hours in here, specifically just make sure you use the SDK3 stuff, and shaders as well. We'll get into that very quickly. Tutorials, tools, general assets. So we'll post a link to here, but basically how it works is, like you saw that Unity package, these are tons of other people out there. They don't work for VR Chat. It's just people that love Unity. They've created a super cool thing. They then create another Unity package, like we saw that we downloaded for VR Chat, and you can just import stuff directly into Unity and use them. It's good to obviously credit, if assets are free, credit. There's also a lot of assets that are paid for, and a lot of these assets also, there's a big trend within this VR Chat community. A lot of them have now a Patreon page where they have their free assets, which I'll link to here, the GitHubs, but then they also have like 5 or 6 of their more unique ones, which they then are for Patreon only. So it's like if you pay $5 a month, you get access to their new, and one of those will be Jet Dogs, which is kind of my go-to prefab pack. So we'll grab that one first. So we've now imported that Vr Chat Sdk, right? And now you can see before we only had one folder. Now I've got a whole bunch of Vr Chat and Udon and all these folders. Generally, you know, your scenes, this is the scene you're working in here. I'm not going to go too deep into like how Unity works, but I'm really going to go into almost a way of like after this, like grabbing assets, importing stuff and kind of building it. So if I do go quite fast, this is being recorded and you can watch it kind of back. But if something completely throws you off, just stop me at a point. But basically now we've got our blank canvas, we've got our Vr Chat SDK, and we want to start building our first world, right? So obviously the first thing we need to do is we want some sort of world, and that's what I was sculpting before. Some people like to create in Unity. Unity really is, one of the artists we work with once said, yeah, Unity's great, it's all in the name because it unifies everything. And I really thought that was an interesting point because it does feel like Unity is just this container for all these other parts of creativity. So if you're into sculpting in VR, that can be your tool for the content for your world, for Unity. If you're into, traditional Blender, these types of CAD programs, you can create all your worlds, everything, all your assets in that, and then everything always just ends up in Unity, and Unity becomes the stage where you light it and you animate it and you add a brain to it, and then you push it to Vr Chat. So I'm going to just start a new folder here, just to try and, I'm terrible, but just to keep with the positive vibes of organization, I'm going to say tree workshop. And earlier you saw me sculpting in Oculus Medium. So I'm just going to go to where I exported that. And sorry, let me bring that desktop here. In my export, got basically a 3D file, in this case a FBX, and I've got all the colors and the normal maps from Adobe Medium. So I'm just going to grab all those assets and I'm going to drag them here into Unity. So the first thing I just want to do is get a sense of scale. So like good old Blender, I'm going to get a Unity cube. I know that that's 1 meter by 1 meter. So when I drag my world in here, I wasn't doing anything with scale in mind. So I need to actually, you can see my center points off here. So quite often sculpting in VR programs, you forget to do it properly and your pivot points always messed up. So a nice little trick is if you just press F when you're in your scene window, that will center it. When it's centered, create an empty game object. Let's call that tree and put our other tree under that. So now our scaling will be a lot easier. And now we've got that little cube as our kind of reference point. So let's just go from the top. And I'm going to bring our little world over. Let's use the bridge for scale. Go the cubes up there. Right, that's a meter. That could look okay. So I'm just guessing sizes now, and this is where VR Chat's so great for sizing, because you can push it so quickly, run around the world, and see how it actually feels size-wise. But the one thing is avatars in VR Chat, even though you see mini ones, they all have the same hitbox state, which is about, I believe, 1.6, 1.8. So you want to make sure if you do have any like if we want to be able to go into that house, you know, let's make that tree a little bit bigger. So that's 3 meters. So let's just make it a bit bigger. And for speed's sake, let's delete those cubes. We'll say we're happy for that scale for now, right? And we want to just create a material. So these are textures, which is the color that's come through. Actually, a better way to do it is you can actually choose the FBX file, and you can say extract materials, and then that will generate what you need. Ooh, wait. I think our tree, our tree needs 3 materials because I did a FBX. So we can have a different material for the tree, a different material for the greenery, and a different material for the little dragon. So I've created the 3 materials. So material 1, I am just dragging the, sorry guys, give me a sec. Cool, so I'm just creating this material here, and I need to drag in the color into the albedo, and I'm going to drag the normal into the normal map, fix that, and same with number 2, drag the color to normal. The normal will contain some detailing that you missed from when you exported from medium. And because we compressed it so much, it's nice. It gives you the normal, so you can fake kind of details. So let's go to layer 1. I think that was that one. I have no idea what is going on with it. For some reason our medium model has exported absolutely weird stuff. So what we're going to do in that case is I'm just going to, we're not going to have color. I'm going to create just a black and white scene for now. So we're going to create a material. Let's keep this as standard. G. Drag it on there. And you'll see when something shows pink like this, it means there isn't a material attached to it. So I've made a tree. Let's make another layer, another material for dragon. And let's make another material for leaves. All right. Cool. So now we've got our basic world, and we are good to go. But still, we have no idea how anything works within this world. It's basically just a 3D object in space. So the first thing you want to do is you need something to walk on, like what's called a collider in Unity. So what a collider does is it will tell VR Chat or tell the avatar that if the avatar's walking on this thing, it's actually geometry. So there's a really easy way to do this by just selecting the object you want, add component, and you can say mesh collider. And that will add a mesh and automatically choose the associated mesh to use as the actual collider. Second thing we want to do in VR Chat is we want to tell it, when I spawn into this world, where do I actually land in the world? So, you know, I could appear anywhere at this point. Let's actually rotate our tree so it's not, so we have a bit of a flat thing, like that. So let's say in this world, we've come and we've just arrived on the dragon, so we want to land on the end of the platform. So VR Chat has all these VRC starting things, right? So what we want to do is we want to find the VRC world kind of information. So we type in VRC world, and inside here you'll see, now in 2019, these blue cubes are what's called prefabs, and this is the information, in this case, that we'll tell where the world location is. So I want to just drag that and literally plop it down where I want the avatar to arrive. Let's make it a little bit higher. So now in theory, as someone arrives in my world, they're going to appear at this point. We've put a collider on, so they'll land and actually sit on this little platform here. So the second thing you want to do is, you've got your own camera in VR Chat, in Unity, right? So this is your game window on the left, and this is my stage on the right. So if I want to start adding effects to this camera, so in Unity you have what's called post-processing layer, which is basically light that glints, things that shimmer and shine, like depth of field, like all processing. Same terminology in video, post-processing, you build your scene and then you can add a layer on top of it, and that makes it, you can even adjust the color afterwards and things like that. It's really handy. Only works on PC. It won't work in Quest worlds. But if you want to make that happen, and if you want to have control over the VR Chat camera in terms of how close it can film and things like that, you want to just make sure your camera is the reference camera. Click on the VRC world and just make sure your camera is set as the reference camera. So now anything I change in my actual camera here will change in the VR Chat world. If I don't reference that camera, it will use this default camera settings. So one of the things to note is this near plane, especially those who have tried the super mini fairies. If you go into someone's world and they haven't changed this near plane, you can't see your arms unless you stretch them out really far because you're so small. So quite often most people will come in here and just take the near all the way down. That's kind of all you really need to do at this point, what we're going to go through. And if we have time, we'll add a little post-processing stack on top of that. So that kind of, in theory, should already be enough to get us a world, right? And at this stage, it looks pretty like you would expect Unity to look. We have a very standard texture. It's, the lighting's very kind of bland. And one of the best tools, like we saw with the GitHub pages and all these different kind of systems, inside of Unity, you obviously also have the Unity Asset Store. So that's Unity's internal store. And similar to prefabs and things like that, it's another way to do it here. And this is a paid asset. It's the one paid asset I'll be going over tonight. But it's a game changer. Quite expensive today, $55, but it's always available on like Humble Bundles and when they have little special sales. So just keep an eye on it. Unity does have their own version, but you really want to get your hands on Bakery. It can, and I'll show you as an example, it can take literally something that looks terrible to beautiful in the matter of a couple of lights. And what Bakery, like the name, baking is one of the most expensive things in real-time development is lighting. So if you've got a light shining and that shines on something and that thing casts a shadow, and I move that object, and that's very taxing. So if you want to, rendering is all about making beautiful lighting ultimately. So what baking does is it basically creates textures and puts those on top of your objects using all the lighting data. So instead of actually showing you it happening in real time, it actually calculates everything, really thinks about it, and then generates all these light maps that then overlays on top of your models. That gives you these really nice shadows and bouncing of light effects in all these games. Once you understand baking, it will change your entire development cycle, because you can make stuff look really pretty without much tax on the processor. So yeah, is there a question? You'll have, it depends on what brushes you're using in Tilt Brush, but you'll see like even the light will bake okay. So what you want to do is, I haven't actually tried with bakery, but for example, if I brought a SketchUp model in here and it didn't have UVs, it wouldn't actually do anything. But what you can do is when your model's in here, you just need to make sure that you come here and you can automatically generate light map UVs here. So if it's got its own light maps, and Tilt Brush they probably do, it might bake well, it might bake not well. If it doesn't, you just want to get rid of the UVs and you can rebake them, or bring them into something like Substance Painter and automatically generate them there. Their automatic light maps are pretty decent. I think definitely like Tyson and Face, those, I think they'll have a much deeper understanding of like the technicalities of that, because also, like I mentioned before, medium is also just a nightmare in terms of UVs and light maps and things like that. But the best thing is always just to try, right? In Tilt Brush, obviously you need to first bring in the Tilt Brush SDK, the same like we brought in the VR Chat SDK, before you can bring in your animated brushes and things like that. Yeah. Cool. So again, this looks pretty dull in a sense, right? I can come here and traditional Unity style, I can come light. Let's make a point light, and you can see this light. I'm going to use this little area in here. You can see as I move the light, it obviously lights up the place. If I turn on shadow, so let's say soft shadow, when I move this, it will actually cast shadow. So you can see but shadows and real time is like the enemy of real time. So no one, it's very hard. You might use one light or two or three. It depends what you're building. But if you're building a traditional VR chat world where you just want to get lots of people in, you'll probably most likely have one of these lights. But in order to make a scene look really nice, you want to have way more lights than that. So generally what I do with lighting scenes, let's build this as a nighttime scene since we don't have any color. So let's use lights to light this up pretty good. So I always like working completely from dark, right? So at the moment I've deleted all my lights, but you'll notice there's still, it's almost like the background is matching the model at the moment. That's because it's taking your skybox, which is your environment, and it's using that lighting data in the skybox to actually light this system. In my case for now, what I want to do is I want to just make everything pitch black, and then we start baking lights into the scene. And what's the time? Let's make just a little entrance light here. Let's pop a few floor lights along here so we know how to get to our dragon, and maybe like a red and a blue light inside to give a bit of ambience. So the first thing we want to do is just get rid of the lighting settings. So the default, you'll see skybox material, it's that. So I'm just going to delete that, and you'll see this blue. I'm just going to change my camera background to black, and our ambient temperature, let's go back there. So you can see now it's still dark, but it's still gray. That's because my ambient color is set to a color. So I'm going to just change that to straight to dark, because I really want to build this. Now you can't see anything. It's as you would expect in kind of real life. In my stage window, I'm just going to turn this little lighting symbol off so I can actually see where I am. And this is where bakery really starts looking great. The first thing you need to do is anything that is baked, you need to make it a static object. Anything that doesn't have to move in your scene, make it a static object. Just every time you can click that button, it's a good thing. So, and if you want to do baking and have it affected by baked light, it must be a static object. And you'll see once this looks beautiful, we'll create a sphere, and that sphere now will be completely black because it doesn't actually have any light in real time. But I'll show you how to fix that quick. All right, so let's quickly say, so we go bakery, create, let's create a little point light. That's just a point of light. Intensity, let's keep 1. Let's make it like a more orangey type, so a bit warmer. Bear in mind this, our material is a white color, so these lights will bounce off it really well. So what I'm going to change here is I'm just going to say the range of this point light. Let's imagine a little path, maybe it's only, what costs about 3 meters, right? And that's also represented by this little circle you can see. So I'm going to position this. Let's get a top view. So I'm going to fly through this because time always goes so much quicker than you think. So I'm just going to make a little point light there. I'm going to make another point light there. One so you can see the stairs. And we should actually be able to jump in this later. And actually then you'll be able to see it in VR Chat. So I'm just plonking these lights kind of where I think they will cast some light. No, I'm just, what I'm actually doing is I'm duplicating them. So I'm selecting one of the lights, and then I'm just hitting the Control D key, and basically that's just making a copy of that same light. And then I'm just moving that light in space, in actual 3D space. So in this case, let's do a bit of a better job of the entrance, right? So I'm just moving that light, and I'm imagining, okay, if I was in a little tree house like this, maybe I would have a little porch light sitting just there. Probably have 2 to welcome the guests. Move it there. And let's duplicate it again. This one I'm going to throw inside the house, and just for some dramatic effect, let's make this red. And let's make the range of this way more than 3 meters. So let's say 15 meters for this one. So in theory, what it should do when it bakes is spill out the doorway. So you'll see a bit of red light coming down there. Baking also takes a long time. If you think bakery takes a long time, the Unity baking system takes forever. Like literally, big projects it's ridiculous. Bakery actually completely changes the workflow because it's so much quicker. Because you can actually start baking really big scenes in half an hour as opposed to days. Yeah. Exactly. And this is one of the big deals about Unreal Engine 5 is it's basically Unreal Engine 5 is letting you do this with real time at all at once. So, and that is why it's such a game changer, because fucking baking takes forever. You'll see actually while I'm talking. So now let's just render this. So now I have to go through that process. Generally what I do is I just think I know where I want the points of interest. So if I'm building a world, I'll be like, okay, I want the bar to be lit. I want this to be lit. So I'll light all those points of interest, and then I'll go into another round where I'm like, how can we make it feel nice by using lights bouncing off? But I'll always bake it first. So in this case, we're just going to keep the simple for now. Hit render. No, we don't need to do that. Save the scene. So now what it's going to do is do its forever kind of magic, where it doesn't usually get stuck at this point though. Oh no, there we go. So okay, well that was nice. We got a horrible error there. Let's just try again. Just probably trying to. There we go. So now this is the calculation, and bear in mind this scene is relatively small compared to a world, right? And it's going pretty fast. This is also a pretty solid PC, but this process, you can imagine how annoying it gets. You move one thing and then bam it. But look at the effect, you know, from literally a really shitty looking white object. By literally chucking in a few little lights, we've now got this atmospheric. Let's go a bit closer. And you see how it's all bouncing off. It's giving us, like we expected, the red glow is all hitting this. And this is where you can start really getting into making it look, you know, this is obviously way too bright now. So the first thing I would do in this case is, now that we've seen the effect, let's take this one back to 5 meters. Let's lift it a little bit higher to the roof. I like those other ones. I think our little dragon needs to be lit just a little bit. So I don't want him to actually have a light, but I want him to like just be glowing a little bit. So I'm going to just move a light nearer him. So we want to see a bit of detail there. Let's make the range on this one about 6 meters. Let's give it a nice little light kind of blue glow. And hit render again, save. So now you can see how this gets annoying. And this, you know, generally it would be like, you would do this for a long time, you know, you'd spend ages placing all your lights and really getting a feeling for what you want, and then doing a bake, or else you're going to be baking, waiting. So there you can see it's thrown just that little shadow of light on top of your little dragon there. So you can really get detailed. You can imagine if you built little lamp posts and actually made those lights, and then that's a really great way. And in reality, it looks super beautiful here, but we actually still don't have one light in this entire scene. So we can still go and add, if we wanted to, a traditional sun. But you can see that's pretty overpowering. But it still keeps, let me just rotate. So this is a real-time light, but you can see it still keeps that baked data underneath it. So let's actually keep a directional light in so we can see it. Let's make it a bit warmer. And let's make it really soft so it just kind of picks up the world. So you can see in the left window here. But obviously based on time, we're not going to go for kind of visual appeal. It'd be nice to actually get this done in 10 minutes, and then we can actually jump in. Thought I was going to cover a lot more, but we might have to have a follow-on. So that's really the basics of lighting, and very, very, very easy way to make stuff look really beautiful really easily. So we've got our lighting in now. We've got our little VR chat thing telling us where we're going to land in the world. And we've got our point lights that we've baked into the scene. So at this stage, we want to actually do something, right? We don't want just a beautiful piece. We want, for example, a little, the scene's quite dark. So let's say we have a little object that we want people to pick up. For example, this object is a torch, right? So I'm going to make a real-time light here. And I'm going to put that light inside the cube. So now if someone holds this, it will actually have a light beam. But how do I tell someone how to hold something like this? So this is where Udon comes in. This is where the programming side comes in. But as a beginner's course, this is extremely where prefabs come in. And like I mentioned before, my favorite is Jet Dogs. I just really like. He's got a ton together, all at once, for free. A lot of these, and you basically go to the Discord. You look for where it says releases. You get the click there, and again you'll see now we have Jet Dogs Prefab Udon Unity package. Same thing as before, that's downloaded a Unity zip. I unpack it into Unity, import it. And what this is doing is this is now taking all of Jet Dog's prefabs that he's developed. It's actually going to complain now because I think a lot of his prefabs rely on that Merlin system. But let's have a look. But basically, it's all these little tools and tips and tricks. Yeah, so you can see he's looking for Udon Sharp. So as soon as you start seeing these red errors, you can't actually do much. So let's quickly get Udon Sharp. So Merlin, Udon Sharp. Same thing, look for the releases. Download the package. And you can see here, it actually says in the error messages, quite often it says, when you see this, are you missing a directory or assembly reference? It means whatever, sometimes one of your objects you've got inside doesn't like, it's trying to find another asset that it can't find. So in this case, we should have installed it first, but Udon Sharp, I'm just going to quickly give a restart. Because it's not part of VR Chat. It's an independent community developer that's built these tools that make VR Chat better. I have in many projects, but each time you start a fresh blank Unity project, you need to bring all the stuff into it that you want to use. Yeah. Damn. Okay, we're having some issues there. So, for argument, so normally what you could do is in Jet Dogs, I can then go into prefabs, and inside here there's just tons of stuff. So pickup example would be one of them. And all the programming and stuff and all the nifty little tricks has already been built inside here. So I just changed that cube to be the torch, and it should work pretty good. But again, for time, we're getting errors. Never fear, you're going to see plenty of these. Just nuke the ones that were giving you errors. And now clear our console back to normal. So what I can do is, for now, let's just click on cube and let's say add pickup, VRC pickup. Got to make sure it's got a collider on it, and again, literally it has VRC pickup in there as a script. I can put it in there, and this should, in theory, as long as it's ticked here and how close I am to it, you can go inside here, and I'll leave it local. So local means each individual person will see it. If it's global, there'll only be one torch and only one person can use it, but everyone will see that torch. If it's local, everyone can have a torch, but you won't see each other's torch beam, basically. So 5 minutes, we're basically there. We've got our scene in, we've got a little pick upable. We now want to throw it onto VR Chat. So we go to the VR Chat SDK up here, go to the control panel, and you want to be signed in here. Let me just sign in. All right. So also, if you can use this SDK if you only white color at the moment, but it will say here you're not allowed to publish. As soon as you unlock, it will tell you here what you're allowed to do. So obviously here you can publish worlds and avatars. I go to my builder, I can see nothing's available yet, but VR Chat's really smart. I'm supposed to set up all these layers. I can say, cool, do it, bro. Same with collision matrix, do it. And there already, you'll now see your actual VR Chat window. So this is related to the world we got. If this doesn't show up, it's because we don't have this VRC world component I put in. So we've got that. It's like, cool, it's Windows mode. If you want to make this Quest friendly, you have to literally swap the entire project to a Quest like Unity version. And the annoying thing about that is every single asset you have in your assets directory, it has to re-import them. So if your project's like 5 gigs, 6 gigs, and upwards, it starts being an absolute nightmare. So you'll begin to understand why, Quest worlds, it's not so much they can't be done, it's more just a pain in the ass if you're building a PC world, because it takes so long for it to change over. Yes. So what I do is, if I know, like most are kind of community kind of places, like the Africa space, the clubhouse. If I know it's going to be a Quest world, I'll always build the structure very quickly as a standard textured based baked looking pretty decent world. Then I'll publish that as a PC world, swap to Quest, publish the Quest version, then go back to Unity and actually start a new scene. Well, duplicate the scene, just save it as, and I would start the PC build from there. Just so the spacing, where the spawn points are, all of that's exactly the same, but I don't have to keep changing everything. I actually set a different world, and in that new PC world, I'll start putting on shaders that are PC only. So if I do have to roll back, I don't have to go and then have a nightmare of like certain shaders not working. All I need to do is just copy the objects I need into the world, because I know my scene itself is all kind of standard. But I'll always work in two separate. So I'll have a tree Quest and a tree PC, and I'll work on them as independent projects. And that's also again why we don't build that much with the Quest worlds, because I think you build both and then you get so excited about the PC one that you end up doing so much work, and then you're like, oh my goodness, just like converting all these assets alone is going to take forever. All right. That's certainly one way to do it, but you don't have to. All you need is the world ID, right? So as long as that world ID is the same, you can have a completely separate project as your Quest build or a completely separate project as your PC build. But that when it starts, if you're trying to run them in tandem, it's a nightmare just in terms of assets and file size. And so it's down to preference, but generally, and there are also tools out there like on the VRC prefabs must have. I won't show it now, but there's ways that people are developing systems now where you can say, okay, I'm happy with this as it was in Quest land, and it will only re-import assets that are needed or something like that. It's like there are ways around it, but a new scene is definitely better for sure, in my opinion, of what I've been doing. All right, so we just hit build and publish there. It looks like it's happy, so we're going to call this tree world, and we're going to set the capacity to 32. And here it's basically your description. Your upload image is basically, you'll see it's in play mode now, and it's created this thing called VRC cam. So if I move that camera to the position I want, it will take, that'll be like my world photo. Most people do it like this, but then you have peeps like Tyson and his avatars where he just makes amazing, and it makes such a difference, I think, seeing these poster images. So I think what Tyson does is he actually brings in an image into his world and he toggles it on at this point, takes a photo, toggles it off or something like that, and then you have a really nice kind of image here. So yeah, I'm happy there. It does ask you, does it contain nudity, violence, blood and gore? And just click to say, yes, I own the rights to all of this. And you'll notice this tick box, if you in green color or above, if you now happy enough with this world and you want to submit it for the world to kind of come and visit and random people to just arrive, and in the hopes that it gets pushed public, that's the tick box you'll check. But for our case, I just want to upload it as a private world. We can all go visit it later, and I hit upload. Basically, this is now pushing the world, and I'll probably test and there's an error and we all fall through the floor. But that's pretty much the process of then pushing it to the world. And I think this is where it gets really interesting, because working in 2D like this in Unity, it's nothing to being on that bridge, right? And I think this is why the power of VR Chat is so amazing in terms of the learning Unity, is because that feedback loop is absolutely instant. So it's uploading it now can literally put on my headset, jump inside and feel how big the space is, have the headset on, come back into Unity, be like, oh no, I didn't like that light there, move it while I've still got the world on. And that was publishing it. You don't have to publish, you can just test it, which will basically, actually let's do that quick, which will basically just run a version of VR Chat locally. So it's a lot quicker to test, but I wouldn't be able to invite anyone to this world. So let's have a look. So now we're testing locally. Because I already published it, everything was the same. It's not normally that quick to do a build and test, but it should now spawn us on the bridge next to the dragon. Not sure what direction. And we have the first view. Yeah, there we go. So just like that, we now see, is our torch working? There's our torch even. So there's our world. It's very skew. Yeah, small enough. And literally, that's the beginning of how, whoa. So you see I didn't put a collider on my dragon, so I fell to my death. And that is it.